Have you ever set your alarm for 5 o'clock a.m. with massive plans, only to hit the snooze button and eventually wake up at 8 o'clock feeling a deep sense of guilt? Maybe you've read that the world's most successful people wake up before the sun. And perhaps you've tried it yourself once, twice, maybe even 10 times, but you always find yourself sliding back into your old habits. You tell yourself that you're just not a morning person, that your body needs the extra rest, or that you work better at night. But what if I told you that the first hour of your day holds a hidden power to completely rewrite your entire life? What if one man's journey could prove that your destiny isn't decided by your luck or your background, but by what you do before the rest of the world opens its eyes? This is the story of a man who had absolutely nothing until 5 o'clock a.m. became his secret weapon. And if you listen closely, this might be the very wake-up call you have been waiting for. In a gray industrial city where the factories hummed with a low vibration day and night, lived a 32-year-old man named Joni for the last 5 years. Joni had worked as a night security guard at a massive logistics warehouse on the edge of town. His life was a monotonous cycle of shadows. Every evening at 8 p.m., he arrived at the heavy iron gates to begin his shift, walking miles of cold concrete floors while everyone else was heading to bed. Every morning at 6 a.m., physically exhausted and mentally drained, he would walk home just as the world was beginning to stir. Joni lived in a tiny, cramped, one-room apartment where the walls felt like they were closing in. He had a single mattress on the floor, a broken fan that clicked rhythmically, and a lone light bulb that flickered whenever the power in the building ran low. His clothes were faded, and his shoes had holes in the soles that let in the morning dew. But more than the physical poverty, Joni suffered from a soul-crushing feeling of being trapped. Every morning as he walked home through the waking city, he would look through the glowing windows of houses and see families sitting together for breakfast. Children laughing as they prepared for school and professionals in clean shirts heading to their offices. He would look at his own grease-stained hands and wonder if he was destined to live life backwards forever. A ghost moving through a world that was moving forward without him. Joni wasn't lazy. In fact, he was one of the hardest workers at the warehouse. He stayed alert, he did his duty, and he never complained. But the harsh truth that haunted him was that hard work alone wasn't changing his circumstances. He was working incredibly hard in a life that was going nowhere. Every morning, when he finally collapsed into bed around 7 o'clock a.m. and slept until the late afternoon, he felt like he was losing his grip on reality. One cold Tuesday morning in November, as he was leaving the warehouse, his phone rang. It was his sister, her voice trembling. "Sex." She told him that their mother had collapsed in the village and was now in a small, underfunded clinic. Joni's heart sank. He took the first bus to the countryside, a long journey that felt like an eternity. When he arrived, the smell of antiseptic and the sight of his mother looking so frail in a rusted hospital bed broke something inside him. The doctor explained that she was suffering from extreme exhaustion and stress, needing medications and a level of care that Joni simply could not afford with his guard salary. Seeing his mother's hands that had labored in the fields for decades to give him a future, He felt a wave of rage, not at the world, but at his own helplessness. He stepped outside the clinic at exactly 5 o'clock a.m. to clear his head. The village was silent, bathed in the soft blue light of the pre-dawn. The air was crisp and bitingly cold. As he stood there, he watched a few local farmers walking toward their fields with lanterns, their faces set with a quiet determination. Birds were just beginning their first songs. In that moment of absolute stillness, Joni made a silent, burning vow. He whispered to the darkness that he would no longer live as a victim of his circumstances. He decided that he would find a way to break the cycle, no matter what it took. On the bus ride back to the city, Joni found himself sitting across from a man in his late 50s who looked remarkably peaceful. The man was well-dressed, reading a thick book, and seemed to possess an energy that Joni lacked. Joni recognized him as Mr. Zeman, a successful entrepreneur known in the city for his various businesses. Surprised to see such a wealthy man on a public bus so early, Joni gathered his courage and asked why he was traveling at dawn. Mr. Zaman looked up, smiled warmly, and told him that he wakes up at 4:30 every single morning to read, think, and plan his day before the noise of the world begins. When Joni shared his struggle of working nights and feeling stuck, Mr. Zeman leaned in and shared a secret. The hours between 5 a.m. and 7 o'clock a.m. are the magic hours. He explained that while the rest of the world dreams, a person can build an entirely new life. He challenged Joni to stop surviving and start building, promising that if he dedicated those early hours to his own growth, his life would be unrecognizable within 90 days. Joni took that challenge to heart. He realized he had to change his entire relationship with time. He began a grueling new routine the moment he got home from his night shift at 6:30 a.m. He would force himself to eat and go straight to sleep, aiming to wake up by 11:30 a.m. to handle his chores, and then, eventually, restructuring his sleep so that he was wide awake and focused. By 5 o'clock a.m., before his shift or during his off hours. Every morning at 5 a.m., his body would scream for more sleep, and his mind would offer 1,000 excuses to stay under the covers. But Joni would remember the smell of the hospital and his mother's tired eyes, and he would stand up. He sat at his small, wobbly table and used his smartphone to access free tutorials on accounting, data management, and digital spreadsheets. The first week was pure agony. His eyes burned from the blue light of the screen, and his brain felt foggy. But he pushed through. From 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock, he built his skills, learning formulas and bookkeeping principles. From 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock, he would walk through the quiet streets, listening to educational podcasts and planning how he could apply what he learned. He stopped being a man who just guarded a warehouse. He became a student of his own future. By day 40, something shifted. Joni no longer needed an alarm. He would wake up at 4:55 a.m., feeling a surge of purpose. His mind was sharper, and he found that the quiet of the morning allowed him to learn in 1 hour what would normally take 3 hours during the noisy day. He began to see patterns in the warehouse's messy inventory that he had never noticed before. He realized that the company was losing thousands of dollars due to poor organization. Using the skills he had mastered during his 5 a.m. sessions, he stayed late one morning and presented a digital spreadsheet he had built to his manager. The manager was stunned. Couldn't believe a security guard had developed such a sophisticated system. Within 2 months, Joni was called into the head office. They didn't just thank him. They offered him a promotion to the accounting department. He was given a daytime office job, a professional desk, and a salary that was double what he had earned at the gate. 1 year later, Joni's life was completely transformed. He moved his mother into a beautiful, sunlit apartment in the city and ensured she had the best medical specialists. He no longer wore shoes with holes or sat in a room with a flickering bulb. Yet, despite his success, he still wakes up at 5 a.m. every single morning. He does it because he realized that those 2 hours are sacred. They are the foundation upon which his entire success was built. He understood that the difference between where you are and where you want to be is just about luck or talent. It's about how you use the time when everyone else is sleeping. Between 5 a.m. and 7 a.m., the world is silent. There are no phone calls, no social media notifications, and no distractions. This is the peak of your willpower and the moment your mind is most fertile. Successful people like Mr. Zaman and Joni aren't superhuman. They just understand that winning the morning is the only way to win the day. Your life can follow this same trajectory if you are willing to make the choice Joni made. It starts tonight. Set your alarm for exactly 5 a.m., not a minute later. Place your phone or your alarm clock across the room so that you are forced to physically stand up and move to turn it off. Once you are up, stay up. Understand that you cannot cheat sleep and expect to win, so you must protect your 9 p.m. bedtime with everything you have. Cut out the late-night scrolling and the mindless television that steal your future 1 minute at a time. Decide right now what you will build during that first hour tomorrow morning. Will it be a new language? A technical skill? A business plan? Whatever it is, commit to it for 90 days. You have the internet, you have the potential, and you have the same 24 hours that every billionaire and leader on this planet has. The only question that remains is whether you will hit snooze and keep dreaming, or wake up and start building. Your future self is waiting for you at 5 a.m. tomorrow morning. Don't let them down. Success isn't a destination you reach. It's a daily practice that starts the moment the clock strikes 5. Will you be there to meet it?